Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. The first story is called Log Everything. This was almost 10 years ago. I was contracting for a very large financial services provider. The team manager was promoted to a new division, and the team of 8 of us was left with 2 team leaders. My job in a nutshell was to onboard new employees into all the required systems for their daily functions, as well as set their email and Active Directory accounts for server access, which was dumped on my lap a month into my job because I had prior experience. I didn't mind the email and AD because it's 2 minutes per account and didn't affect my central function by more than 20 minutes a day, and audits were 30 minutes a week. This all happened from our centrally shared mailbox. It's requests, so you can't determine how busy you are. On to the fun. Almost before the door hit the manager on the way out, the team leads called us into a meeting room and stated that we must do no less than 10 requests a day, all to be logged on their call logging system. And here's the contract amendments we must sign or be fired. Being a contractor, you'd think I would shut up. But no, I piped up. I don't see how it's possible to guarantee 80 requests a day minimum for every team member to meet the requirements. Why not measure the ticket count and see who did what? His face turned a deeper color and he shouts at me to mind my own business, as I don't know what I'm talking about. Cue the compliance. I called my contract house manager, explained what was happening, and after she could breathe again from laughing so hard, she told me not to get her fired. I head back to my desk, knowing full well that audits are about to start in a week, and I get multiple requests to make amendments to accounts to test Active Directory security. I got an email 2 days later to prep for a massive test. I am tasked to amend nearly 6,000 accounts with new settings, and then change them back on request, with minimal impact on the users during working hours. So I needed to do this quickly. Now, any tech worth its measure out there will know that almost anything is scriptable. I set it all up, called my mate at the service desk, and here's the funny thing. He also has a script to log multiple tickets. On to the audit day. I take the auditor's call at 8 AM to make the change. I send the email to my desk mate, and he logs the tickets in a record 30 seconds. And my mailbox booms with 6,000 open tickets. I ran my script, and 90 seconds later, the job was done. So I carried on with my core function. 3 hours later, the auditor called me to revert. I ran my second script, everything back to normal, called my mate to close the tickets, and a minute later, my mailbox frazzled for a bit, getting 6,000 closure tickets. It's at this point I smile, sit back and start browsing the web. In less than an hour, one of the leads comes to me to ask what's happening. I simply state that the contract amendment they forced on us clearly means I don't have to work for 200 days. So I'll be sitting here, enjoying my time off. Or I can do it from home. Either way, I'm ahead of the curve. She walks away, and the other lead storms over, demanding I get back to work. I repeat what I said, and he spluttered for a while, and he huffs off. True to my word, I sat at my desk doing nothing. But sadly, it didn't last 2 days before the head of the department called me in. After an initially aggressive start to the meeting on his part, I got to explain the switch. I wasn't even to the good part, and he drops his head into his palm, calmly listens to the story, asks me for a copy of the amendment, and thanked me for the time. 2 hours later, he calls me back and asks me, with one of the leads in the room, what would it take to get me back to work. I decided to keep it simple, formally retract the stupid amendment, and pay me out for the time spent on the audit, which is 600 days, as per the contract amendment. He blaufished for a few seconds, agreed, and I left for the day. I woke up the next morning to a huge jump in my bank account, with an email confirming I'll be back in the office. Please? True to my word, I was back at my desk, working as usual, and for some reason, the team leads never came near me again, even when I shifted to another department. The next story is called Ask for ID. I worked for many years for Toys R Us throughout high school and college. One late December evening, a customer wanted to check out with a hot new video game console, a not so small transaction. For payment, he presented a credit card. Our corporate policy was to ask for ID with any card payment. He approached my checkout with what was unquestionably one of our largest sales of the day. I rang him up and requested his payment, and, as required by policy, and a written statement on his card identification, he immediately became belligerent and informed me that I was contractually obligated to part with valuable wares without any assurance that he was who he said he was, or that I would actually receive remuneration for them. I looked it up later. That's true. As a condition of accepting card payments, merchants must agree to contractual language promulgated by card issuers, and in most cases, that precludes sellers from requiring identification. However, neither this man nor me are parties to that contract, nor does this man have any reason to believe that his retail checkout clerk has any knowledge of, or is paid enough to care about, some contract someone in an office park may or may not have agreed to with Visa or MasterCard. Naturally, upon being informed that I refused his purchase, he threatened to sue me personally and demanded to speak to my manager. I was the highest ranking employee in the store that day, with above minimum wage, several years more experience than any other hourly employee, and anyone with more clout than me off for the holiday. I was the manager on duty, and had stepped onto a register myself to expedite operations. I cheerfully told him I would be happy to get the manager for him. I spun on my heel and then asked him how I could help him. I made him re-explain to the manager why he was upset with my associate. He ultimately then presented his ID, but the manager agreed that photo ID was entirely irrelevant. As the customer had said, if the card was signed, I must accept it based upon his signature. Unfortunately, however, the signature on the card and the signature on the receipt did not match. The card was prominently signed, douche, ask for ID. The payment slip was signed, douche, close, but clearly not a match. My employer was therefore contractually required to refuse the transaction and to report the fraudulent attempt, resulting in a card freeze. Can I trust you to find the exit, or will you require the assistance of the local constabulary? He was served a formal trespass notice, and, in an abundance of caution, I also called every store within 3 counties to ensure no one was duped by that clever near match. The last story is called Punishment Gone Wrong. I was a tax associate at the most well-known tax service in North America. I did very well in the class you take, which determines your eligibility to be hired, as well as teaching you how to do taxes, and was hired. I bounced from office to office, as newbies do, and I was doing well enough that I was always the first to be called if a shift needed to be covered. After my first season with them went so well, I was invited back for the next year, and the class was free because of the invitation back. In case you wonder why the class is every year, it's because tax rules change every year, and we have to keep up. Shortly after the class was over, which I aced, I was approached by the lady who ran the district. She wanted to open a seasonal office in a Walmart, 50 kilometers outside the city I worked in. She wanted me as a primary associate there, in part because I'd done so well in the previous year, in part because I aced the class, in part because of my background in security, and in part because I lived 20 kilometers closer to this Walmart than anyone else on the staff. I wasn't to be a manager, but I was going to be the only full-time associate. I'd open and close almost every day, and often be the only associate on site. It was basically my baby to take care of. There were hints it might lead to advancements in the company as well. I was pretty excited at the opportunity. At first, everything was great. The Walmart staff liked me. The customers liked me. My boss liked me. I was blasting through customers. Only maybe 5 people walked away due to having to wait. Out of the few hundred who approached my little office beside the produce section. 2 months in, Right before the tax season really heated up, I had a weekend I'd booked off the same day they'd hired me. I was going out of the province to see family. The trip had been set long before they hired me, and I'd made it quite clear I wasn't going to be around. The schedule accurately reflected that. So weekend arrives and I go. Had a good time and came home Monday evening so I could be back Tuesday morning. When I got home, I checked my answering machine for messages. Even if smartphones were starting to be a thing, I didn't have one, and I'm pleased to say I still don't. There were 3 messages, 2 from my boss, the district lady, and 1 from the scheduler. Message 1, Saturday morning, approximately 7 AM. Hi, sorry to do this to you, but we need you in today. Employee X, who we scheduled to replace you, can't come in. Car broke down. Message 2, Saturday afternoon, approximately 2 PM. I'm very disappointed in you for not responding to me and not showing up. I'll be making some changes. Message 3, Monday morning, approximately 9 AM. Hi, this is scheduler. Your hours have changed this week. Call me when you get this. Now, at this point in my life, I'm not a kid out of high school, and I've had enough experience with screw jobs that I'm not going to crawl on my hands and knees apologizing and begging for my job. If you are going to be petty and mean just because you screwed up, then we are going to have problems. And so we did. I called the scheduler and was told I was suspended for a week, and to call my boss after a week to get back on the schedule. She said the boss was trying to put me in my place and teach me how to be a good manager. I'd get back on the schedule after the week was over. I brought up my pre-planned and scheduled time off, and also that I wasn't a manager. I was a regular employee. The scheduler was very uncomfortable, but she was only doing what she was told. They did need me, she said. Just call the boss in a week. I said sure, and then didn't. I was furious, and I wasn't the one who was going to be put in her place. I called a few of the customers who I'd been working with, and explained I was no longer working there, and they chose to keep me as their tax girl regardless. It really wasn't intended as revenge, even though it sounds that way. The company wasn't going to make more than it cost to have someone do their taxes anyway. This was purely a customer relationship thing. I like to finish what I start. The real revenge was accepting my suspension. The entire week I was suspended, I made sure to stop in at the Walmart to see if I knew who they scheduled for my shift, and if we were friendly, then help them out with the quirks of this location. But there was never anyone there. I confirmed with the Walmart staff. All week they had no one working there. Paying Walmart to rent space and getting nothing but a red reputation for it, because the heavily advertised new location had 0 employees. It remained that way for the rest of the season. 2 months. The boss never called me, and I never called her. I have no idea how it impacted her professionally. I stayed far away from Texas ever since. I got another job before my suspension was over, and never looked back. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.